the all-school meeting that honours the Lake Forest Academy Hall of Fame and the Ferry Hall Women's Distinction. We're going to start with I'm going to ask Mr. Plumbeck and the choir to sing the two alma maters, first the Ferry Hall and then Lake Forest Academy. So Mr. Plumbeck and the choir, and if you could please stand while we sing the alma maters.
What do we need? Oh, house? Can we just do house? To you we sing our praise. Our thanks we give with voices for many glorious days. For friendships one that will endure when memories find recall. The work we did, the fun we had at dear old Ferry Hall. As we have journeyed on our way and girlhood days are o'er, the ideas you've imparted will linger evermore. As we look back upon our days within her ivy walls, with love we'll praise our alma mater, dear old Ferry Hall. Lake Forest alma mater, fond devotion binds us to thee. Heart and hand we pledge to serve thee. True and long as life, see the black and orange, flaming proudly o'er thee. Emblem true of all we do, to spread abroad thy glory. Fair Lake Forest, when we sever, live we in thy spirit ever. We'll forget thee never, never. Dear old LFA. How are we going to do that?
Thank you, members of the choir, Mr. Plumbeck. Excellent. To start the meeting today, or to continue, I'd like to invite Mr. Mike Shell, class of 1965, and the chair of Lake Forest Academy's Board of Trustees, to the podium to say a few words. Mr. Shell.
Thank you very much. Let me start by congratulating the honorees, Chris Wetzel, who I've known for a long time. His father was my freshman year English teacher here at Lake Forest Academy. Congratulations, Chris. Jeff was my predecessor as the board chair. We had a great relationship, 9 or 10 years together, and I very much appreciated all the advice and counsel that I got from him along the way. And Terry Hall, I just met. She's already given me a couple of really great ideas that I think are going to be very helpful to the institutional well-being of Lake Forest Academy. So congratulations to you, Terry, and thanks for those ideas. I hope to get a few more before we're done, so thank you. Let me beg your indulgence. This is a little bit like speed dating, speed speaking. The task is to find something that is meaningful to people who are considerably younger than you are, you can do the math, and do it in about 3 minutes. I'll try. The message I want to leave you with is that we're a family, that Lake Forest Academy is a place that nurtures you, teaches you, and sends you out into the world, sort of the way your parents do in the beginning. But over time, it becomes more than just a parental relationship. It becomes a familial relationship. You find siblings all around the world who are your fellow LFA grads. And as an example, I went to a meeting last night, which was a small reception for the former Deputy National Security Advisor to the President, and as I was walking out, there was a fellow that I hadn't met, and I introduced myself, and turned out he was LFA, class of 1961. There are folks all around the world that I've run across in one way or another, that some of whom become friends, some of whom became clients, some of whom became mentors or advisors or whatever. As you go forward, I hope you will realize that you are part of a very large family. It's always nice to have family members in the neighborhood, and sometimes it's a surprise to find out that they are there. But you will have siblings all around the world, and I do hope that you will maintain the connection. In my own particular case, it is one of the most valuable experiences I've had in my life, if not the most, and I commend it to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Today, within our celebration of the Alumni Reunion weekend, we're honoring our Woman of Distinction and our 2017 Hall of Fame recipients. The Woman of Distinction Award was established by Lake Forest Academy in 2004 in collaboration with the Ferry Hall Task Force. It is awarded to a Ferry Hall or Lake Forest Academy alumna who has achieved distinction in volunteer or professional pursuits and who serves as a role model for Lake Forest Academy's entire student community. Today I'm delighted and proud that we can honor the work and contributions to society of Terry Hall, a 1967 graduate of Ferry Hall. Terry, please join me at the podium. This is where I embarrass the alums, because they have to stand here while I read a citation. So. Her citation reads, Terry Hall, 67, Ferry Hall Woman of Distinction. One of our most involved and committed Ferry Hall alumni, you embody the spirits and ideals of the girls' school you represent. From your service on the Alumni Council, the Ferry Hall Advisory Board, and most recently the Alumni Advisory Board, you have contributed mightily to the evolution of the alumni program at Lake Forest Academy. Beyond LFA, you have made an impact on your community through your service on the local school board and on numerous associations related to your career as a certified public accountant. A legacy alumna of the school, you have followed in your father's footsteps in serving the community around you and in making a difference in people's lives. As an adventurer, you have traveled to 6 of the 7 continents, always finding your way back to the people and places you hold dear in Illinois. We thank you for being a beloved member of our community, for embracing the mission of the Academy, and for representing your alma mater with dignity, poise, and passion. I'm proud to recognize Terry Hall as the 2017 Ferry Hall Woman of Distinction.
Thank you, Headmaster, and thank you, Lake Forest Academy, for honoring me as the Ferry Hall Woman of Distinction. I'm very proud of this honor, and I'm also very happy for the last 10, 12 years at all of the traditions and memories and even our school song that have been brought back to this campus. We missed that for a time, and I've been very happy to see those things return. I felt like I should try to give you some advice about school, careers, and life. And then I realized that here at LFA, you're surrounded by people whose whole mission in life is to help you succeed in school and your careers and life. So I thought I'd just mention one thing that has come to me time and time over the years, something that was said by the baseball great Yogi Berra. He said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. And I thought, that's great. To me, that means you choose. You have to make a conscious choice, what road you take, what path you follow. And live your life on purpose. Don't just let life happen to you. And I feel like at Ferry Hall they taught us that. They taught us about how to make the choices. It wasn't so much about absorbing the knowledge, which we got a lot of. It was about learning how to make choices in life that would be right for us. Ferry Hall took female education very seriously. It was all girls, very different back then from here. We were on the other side of town in a big campus away from all boys and town and everything. And they took education seriously. They had very high expectations for us. They taught us to have healthy competition and to take pride in our successes for ourselves. When I graduated 50 years ago, so when I was in high school and then college, it was the late 60s, the early 70s. That was a crazy, crazy time in our country. My freshman year in high school is when President Kennedy was assassinated, which astonished the whole country. We were embroiled in the civil rights movement. The Vietnam War was going on and all the protests against the war. Then when I was a freshman in college, President Johnson announced that he would not run for another term, again something that shocked everybody. 4 days after that, Martin Luther King was assassinated, and cities across the country erupted in riots and fires. 2 months later, Robert Kennedy, the younger brother of the slain president, was also assassinated, and that was a terrible summer full of protests and rioting and anger and terrible divisions. Then in the fall, President Nixon was elected, and then we had the hippies and the peace and love and all that stuff, and we also had the Vietnam War continuing and the protests. Woodstock came along, 3 days of peace and music with zero violence. Then the next year was the massacre at Kent State, where the National Guard opened fire on peaceful protesters and bystanders. We had a paranoid president who sat in the White House thinking that the media and the opposition were out to get him and making up stories and lies. His people had the break-in at Watergate, followed by investigations, a special prosecutor, a lot of public hearings, and ultimately in 1974, he resigned from office. So that was 3 presidents in a row that unexpectedly left office, between assassination, choosing to quit, and being forced to resign. Right towards the end of that time, well, during those same years, I was going to high school, then going to college, dropped out of college, got involved in student activism, civil rights stuff, and then went back to college, and then dropped out again, and got married. And then I had my son in 1973, right during the Watergate hearings. So the very first thing he watched on television was when he was a little tiny baby, he was watching the Watergate hearings with me. And that changed my life, because I had to think more about how I was going to earn a living and what my life was going to be like. But being a mom was and still is the most fun thing in my whole life. That was early feminism too. We were just starting, women were starting to fight for their rights. When I got pregnant, I was working at a newspaper, and as soon as they found out, they called me in and fired me. They said that some of the men might be uncomfortable working around a pregnant woman. So I was home for about a year, and then when I went back to work, I got a really good job in corporate finance. My first day on the job, I came in, and the department head told me that the women take turns making coffee, and the men contribute to a coffee kitty. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. And it was such shockwaves through the whole department. And some people were surprisingly angry about it. And I stuck to my guns. I said, I don't make coffee, I'm not doing it. So the upshot was they raffled off the coffee maker and everybody had to use the vending machine from then on. I enjoyed my job in corporate finance, and I started going back to night school. I got divorced soon after that, and I went to night school. I held down a couple of jobs. I was a single mom, and I just kept putting one foot in front of the other. Eventually, I graduated from college at age 34, and the next year I got my CPA, passed the CPA exam, became a certified public accountant. Then I opened my own practice, and from then on, I kind of had my purpose, and I loved my work. I also, when my sons began at college, I had always wanted to travel, so I started working in the off-season part-time in the travel industry. And that has helped me get around the world and around the country. I've been to all 50 states, I've been to about 35 countries, and I made friends all over the world, and that's been a wonderful addition to my life. And what I think from this point, 50 years out, and I look back and I think for 35 or 40 years, I've gotten up every single morning and done things that I love to do. And so the last thing that I might leave you with is something you've probably heard, which is do what you love and the money will follow. And I add to that, if it doesn't follow, it doesn't matter, because you spent all your time doing things that you loved.
Thank you, Terry. Excellent. Now on to the Hall of Fame recognitions. The Hall of Fame was founded in 1980 by the Alumni Association to honor those individuals who have earned distinction in one of three categories: achievement and service to society, service to the school, Lake Forest Academy and Ferry Hall, and achievement in athletics. The inductions continued until 1996, when they were discontinued for a time. Then the Alumni Council and Ferry Hall Advisory Board encouraged their reinstatement in 2006 as part of our annual reunion weekend celebration. And then in 2015, achievement in the arts was added as a criteria. Today we honour two individuals. The first recipient is Jeff Keller, class of 1987. Jeff, please join me at the podium. The citation reads, Jeffrey B. Keller, 87, service to the school. A man of steadfast principles, abiding loyalty, and boundless generosity, you are a model alumnus of Lake Forest Academy. From your days as all-school president, Dita, paying attention, to your years as trustee and later chair of the school's board of trustees, you have kept your alma mater front of mind and center of heart. A gifted speaker and storyteller, you have inspired and motivated us with your words. A passionate philanthropist, you have humbled us with your generous deeds and actions. Your service to the school over the past 3 decades is broad and comprehensive. Alumni Council representative, reunion committee member, trustee, life trustee, and current parent of an LFA student. We thank you for your service and involvement with the school, and are grateful for the guidance and leadership you have delivered. The Academy is honoured and delighted to recognise you in the Hall of Fame and to celebrate your achievements and commitment to Lake Forest Academy. Proud to recognise Jeff Keller on his Hall of Fame award.
Thank you, John. This podium and I have never gotten along. Thank you, John, and thanks to all of you. How are you guys doing? It's a great honor for me to be here with you all today. And I just have a few thoughts as I think about LFA, me, and you. So let's talk about LFA first. This is a great place. It's been here a long time. How many years? 160. All right, we're all math majors. Good. You have some awesome things here that can make you a better person. You've got great peers from all around the world. You've got great teachers that have a passion for teaching you, a great campus full of great places where you can play and study and hang out and eat and sleep. That happens over that period of time when you have a sequence of really great people that come together and work to keep the traditions alive, but also to keep changing. It's really the only way to survive and prosper. You can think about Charles Darwin. So I would encourage you guys to take full advantage of it, enjoy it while you're here, and really embrace it. So for me, I'm just one of the many people like you who chose to come here to LFA, or maybe you had your parents force you to come here to LFA, that happens. And a lot happened to me here, and you know, it worked. I graduated. I went on from here to college, just like all of you guys are going to do. I made some great friends that I still hang out with. One of them is here today. I learned a lot of life lessons. Some of them were in the classroom, but a lot of them were outside of the classroom. You know, think drama, heartache, boy-girl stuff, awkward teenage stuff. You know, you guys are living this. But this is the real stuff, including, and this was totally awesome, attending an AC/DC concert with Mr. Wick when I was here. He's probably never recovered. Kier and I were there, together with our third roommate. We had a triple, Matt Henkel, who's not here today. But all this helped me become a better person, and something that I realize a lot more now than I did then. And so now you. And for this, I'd like to use a song some of you may know. It's called Humble by Kendrick Lamar. We really can't talk about the song because I'm not allowed to use half the words that are in that song, and a lot of the subject matter in that song is totally inappropriate for me to talk to you guys about today. However, the song is really basically about keeping it real and honoring tradition, and that's a good message. You can go back and listen to it, see if you get it. It applies to you guys and what you do here every day. Keep it real and live in the moment. Put your phones down more than you do. Okay, that's my one parental preach. And remember that you're now a part of this place and it's forever a part of you. So in 30 years, when you've had the chance that I've now had to reflect on all this, you'll know that your accomplishments come from your desire to make and to be part of successes, and not for the recognition. So now, in keeping with the song, I will be humble and sit down.
I'm disappointed now. I thought we were going to get a rendition of Humble Things together. But it probably was a good idea we didn't do that. Thank you, Jeff. The second Hall of Fame recipient is Chris Wetzel, class of 1967. Chris, if you join me at the podium. The citation reads, Chris Wetzel, 67, service to society. An academy boy through and through, you were born at Lake Forest Academy and called the campus home for more than 20 years. Son of beloved Lake Forest Academy master Lou Wetzel, you too became an educator, earning top honors in the study of psychology and inspiring students for 4 decades. An esteemed professor, 2-time chair of the psychology department at Rhodes College, and an award-winning researcher, you have authored numerous papers on topics from interpersonal relationships and social interactions to race and cultural competencies. Your deep devotion to the field of social psychology and your steadfast support of scholars make you a most worthy recipient of this Hall of Fame distinction. We applaud your scholastic achievements and recognize your lasting contributions to the field of psychology, while also honoring your fervent and abiding support of your high school alma mater. Thank you for your faithful devotion to the school. Lake Forest Academy is honored to recognize the lifetime achievements of a favorite son. Proud to recognize Chris Wetzel, class of 67, on his Hall of Fame award.
Well, this is a very special award for me because, as you just heard, I grew up on this campus as a faculty brat. Are there any faculty brats in the audience? Staff brats? Actually lived on campus for the first 10, 20 years of their lives? 15 years? Well, I grew up in Warner House, and I had some amazing experiences there that really shaped me. I just mentioned 3 of them off the get-go. The first one is when I was 8 years old, I took a walk in the woods with Robert Frost. when he spent a week on campus for the 100-year anniversary of the school. A couple of years later, my father was a track coach, and I was learning how to do the hurdles, and he had some small kid-sized hurdles set up in the backyard. And that year, we had Jesse Owens come to campus to speak, probably the world's greatest track athlete. And interestingly, because of the racism of the Lake Forest community back then, he could not get a hotel room in the Lake Forest area. So he spent the night on campus near Warner House. And the next day, he noticed those hurdles out in the backyard and asked my dad, whose are those? My dad, of course, oh, they're my kids. And so Jesse said, well, get the boy out here. So I went out there and high hurdled for Jesse Owens and got some hurdling lessons. And that's one of my 3 claims to fame, I would say, in this world. Back then, the Academy campus was quite different than it is today. It was 3 times larger than it was and much wilder. So a third example is when I was about 7 years old, I think, my dog was almost killed by a wolverine. Yeah, there were wolverines on this campus. The furry ones, not the athletic type. Now, I've been, as he's alluded to, been working at a selective liberal arts college for the last 40 years. And I've probably taught about 5,000 students by now. So it might be odd to hear what I'm going to tell you today, which is, I think intelligence is overrated for being a success in school or a success in life. And I think intelligence is overrated because we hold some cultural myths about intelligence. And so now I'm speaking as a psychologist. The first cultural myth is that intelligence is innate or genetic. Now it does have genetic factors and influences, but those influences pale in comparison to the cultural and environmental factors that will influence your intelligence. And frankly, I got exposed to a lot of those factors here, not only as a kid, but also as a student. The second thing is that intelligence is fixed. In fact, research shows it's much more unstable and malleable and growable than people realize. And my years here as a student grew my intelligence immensely. And so that's one important thing you have to keep in mind. Now, these 2 beliefs also create, these 2 myths rather, also create some self-defeating behaviors I see often in my college students, and you may see it in yourself. The first thing is called self-handicapping. People who overrate the importance of intelligence frequently fear that they are not quite as intelligent as they appear to be to other people. They're insecure about their intelligence. And so what happens is, when they anticipate possible failure or a challenging situation, they handicap themselves as a way to protect their self-esteem. Because if you withdraw effort or disengage when you don't do well, now you have an easy excuse. I just didn't try, I didn't care. And this then protects your self-esteem, but at a tremendous expense, not being able to grow from accepting and working on challenging situations. Next, people are also who rate intelligence over too much, are also what we call risk averse. They're afraid to take on new challenges, to take risks. Because of course, doing so could put your self-esteem at jeopardy there. And unfortunately, accepting challenges, and many of you probably are challenged here at the school, is a great way to grow your intelligence, to develop. Now, a little bit about me when I was here at LFA 50 years ago. First of all, I'm going to own it right up front. I really couldn't have gotten an LFA if I hadn't been a faculty brat. Okay? My PSAT scores were not high enough, my grades in 8th grade were not high enough, but I could come to LFA and not pick up a dorm bed, and so as a perk to my dad, I came to LFA. Now, I worked really hard here at LFA. I studied 4 to 4.5 hours a night, 6 days a week. And even then, I still got my share of bad grades. I got some D's and F's on assignments. Back then, though, D's and F's were not all that uncommon. but still, I was not a stellar student. I, in fact, graduated with a B- average, barely making it in the top 25% of my class. But what I did do when I was here is I worked hard. I had exceptionally good feedback and advice and guidance from faculty here on campus, and most importantly, I listened to them. And so I worked and reworked my assignments, and I think developed into a pretty good scholar. Basically, I learned how to learn. Now, one other little tidbit about me. After I graduated from LFA, my father, who's still teaching here, revealed something about my success here at LFA. In my graduating class, I had the lowest SAT verbal score, which is pretty ironic. My father was an English teacher here. So, given what you now know about me, how in hell did I get a PhD? How did I get awards like this? Well, it has to do, and here I have to admit, a modicum of intelligence is needed. You have to be bright. You don't have to be brilliant. I was bright enough, and I think all of you who are here and getting at least a C average are plenty bright enough to do well in college and do well in the world. But I also worked on and developed other kinds of skills, what we call in psychology socio-emotional skills. And I want to talk about 5 of those, basically. The first one, and by the way, you may have heard of some of these things already. I don't know how much this is filtered down into the high school culture, but the first one is what's called grit. Basically, having persistence, having resiliency, having some self-control, and having a strong work ethic. Grit can carry you very far. Second thing is conscientiousness. Being able to take advice, to follow instructions, to have some discipline. And these are all skills you can work on and develop. The third one is an important one of the 5 factors of personality discovered in psychology called agreeableness. Basically, agreeableness is being a nice, pleasant person to be around. That can gain you a lot of advantages. And it really is true, smiling helps a lot. Also, being compassionate about other people's foibles can also be a benefit. The fourth thing is what someone calls social skills. Being able to read other people, to be able to know what your impact is on other people. Another component of this is what's called cultural competence. Being able to recognize difference and being able to deal with difference. And here is one spot where LFA fell short for me. Because back in my day, LFA was not at all diverse. We were an all-boys school. We were 99% white, 99% upper class, and 99% USA citizens. LFA has changed for the best now, and I hope you will take advantage of these multicultural experiences, because cultural competence is going to get you very far in this modern world. And lastly, we have what we call in psychology metacognition, your ability to think about your own thinking. Knowing when you don't know something is real important. Thinking about how your view of other people, how your perceptions could be flawed or biased. These are important things to be able to do. Also, knowing what your weaknesses are and how to deal with them. And feeling gratitude for the gifts and advantages you've been given in life. And one of those should be the gratitude you feel for attending a great school like LFA. So, in conclusion, what I want you to do is mindfully work on these 5 skills and stop worrying about how intelligent you are.
Thank you, Chris. Excellent words. And thanks also to Terry and Jeff. Before I dismiss your school meeting, can you please have a final round of applause. You, the students, will get the opportunity to speak with our honorees at some point during the reunion weekend, and also with some of the other alums who will be on campus starting really tonight, but mainly tomorrow and Saturday. Hope you come up and introduce yourself to the alums, say who you are, and get to know them a little bit as well. And with that, and with good luck for all of the athletic events this weekend, all school meeting is dismissed.